Welcome back to Auto Vista, where we explore the art, engineering, and passion behind the world's most iconic automobiles. Today, we're taking a closer look at a car that exemplifies British elegance, luxury, and understated power, the 1987 Jaguar XJ6. This car wasn't just a vehicle, it was a statement. A statement that said you valued craftsmanship, comfort, and a touch of aristocratic charm. Now, imagine it's the late 1980s. The Cold War is still rumbling in the background, synthpop is dominating the radio, and if you had money and taste, you weren't driving a Mercedes or a BMW. You were driving a Jaguar. And not just any Jaguar, but the Series 3 XJ6, a car that blended traditional British styling with a few modern updates that made it more than just a holdover from the past. The 1987 Jaguar XJ6 marked the final years of the Series 3 generation, which ran from 1979 to 1992. It was the result of subtle evolution rather than revolutionary change. And that's what Jaguar customers wanted. Continuity, sophistication, and, let's be honest, a bit of that old-world charm. This wasn't about breaking new ground, it was about refining a classic. Let's talk about the design. The Series 3 was the first Jaguar sedan whose styling was partly influenced by an outside firm, none other than Pininfarina, the legendary Italian design house. And their touch was gentle but noticeable. The roofline was slightly raised for more headroom in the back, and the rear window was reshaped for better visibility. The bumpers were made sleeker to comply with US regulations but managed to retain the car's overall grace. At a glance, the 1987 XJ6 exudes timeless class. Long, low, and wide, with just the right amount of chrome detailing to catch the light without looking gaudy. The twin round headlights, set into a subtly forward-leaning nose, gave it a distinctive face. It had presence, but not flashiness. And that's key, it was a car for those who didn't need to shout to be heard. Step inside, and you're immediately embraced by a sense of occasion. This is where Jaguar truly excelled. The interior of the XJ6 was like a gentleman's club on wheels. Burl walnut veneer, supple leather seats, and thick carpeting made it feel like home, if your home was a Mayfair townhouse. The seats were soft but supportive, more lounge chair than bucket seat. And the instrumentation was clean and classic, with big, round dials and toggle switches that felt satisfying to use. There's something about the smell of a Jaguar interior from this era, a mix of leather, wood, and something indefinably British. It's not something you can replicate in a modern car, no matter how luxurious. And let's not forget the little touches, the analog clock set into the dash, the chrome ashtrays, and even the signature Growler badge embossed into the wood veneer. Every detail felt considered. Under the hood of the 1987 XJ6 was the heart of the beast, the legendary XK inline-six engine. A 4.2-liter straight-six that had its roots in the 1940s but had been steadily improved over the decades. In this form, it produced around 176 horsepower and 219 pound-feet of torque. Now, that might not sound like much by today's standards, but it delivered its power smoothly and confidently. This wasn't a car for drag racing. It was for wafting down the motorway at 80 miles per hour with barely a whisper from the engine bay. The transmission was typically a 3-speed automatic sourced from General Motors, and while it wasn't the most advanced gearbox of the time, it was reliable and well matched to the engine's characteristics. Shifts were smooth and almost imperceptible if you weren't paying attention. And that's kind of the point. Everything about the XJ6 was about effortlessness. The ride quality, outstanding. Jaguar's engineers had always prioritized comfort over outright performance, and the XJ6 was no exception. It floated over rough pavement with a grace that few other cars of the era could match. Thanks to its independent rear suspension, a rarity at the time for sedans, it maintained composure and grip in corners while isolating passengers from road imperfections. It wasn't sporty in the modern sense, but it was composed, confident, and always dignified. Now, let's be fair, owning a 1987 Jaguar XJ6 wasn't all roses. These cars had a reputation for, let's call it character. Electrical gremlins were not uncommon. Lucas, often jokingly referred to as the Prince of Darkness, supplied many of the electrical components, and let's just say they weren't always up to the job. Maintenance was critical, and neglect could quickly turn your stately British cruiser into a driveway ornament. But for those who maintained them, and many did, the XJ6 delivered a driving experience that few cars could rival. It was quiet, refined, and had an unmistakable personality. It wasn't just transportation, it was an experience, and there's a reason this car still has such a loyal following today. It represents a particular philosophy of car building that's largely disappeared. A time when luxury didn't mean screens or gadgets, it meant craftsmanship, ambiance, and heritage. The XJ6 didn't care about lap times or tech specs. It cared about how it made you feel behind the wheel. Even today, a well-preserved 1987 XJ6 can turn heads. It has a classic shape, one that hasn't aged poorly like some of its contemporaries. And because it was built during Jaguar's pre-Ford era, it still retains that unique charm and quirkiness that some say the brand lost in later years. These cars were hand-finished, with the kind of attention to detail that's becoming rarer in the modern automotive world. For collectors, the Series 3 XJ6 occupies a sweet spot. It's old enough to be considered classic, but modern enough to be usable. Parts are still available, there's a wealth of knowledge and enthusiast communities, and prices, while rising, are still reasonable compared to other classic luxury sedans. But more importantly, it's a car that offers a sense of occasion every time you drive it. At Auto Vista, we don't just look at specs and performance numbers, we look at what cars mean. And the 1987 Jaguar XJ6 means elegance. It means tradition. It means an era when Jaguar proudly competed with the best in the world and did so on its own terms. If you've ever dreamed of owning a car that makes you feel like royalty every time you step inside, that purrs down the road with grace, and that carries with it the legacy of one of the most storied brands in automotive history, then the 1987 Jaguar XJ6 might just be your dream made metal. Thanks for watching Auto Vista. If you enjoyed this dive into classic British motoring, be sure to like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments, what's your favorite era of Jaguar? Until next time, keep your engines running and your tastes refined.